Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today, we're going to just do a real quick kind of run through about this whole Johann Pilz saying that Helldivers 2 makes people comfortable with fighting for fascism, blah, blah, blah. Now, when people read what he said, I can understand why they immediately get upset. For those who don't know, there's another article out there. I chose to use this article just because I like it better. But what he said was that they asked themselves, could we brainwash an entire community to fight for a fascist state? Would they? Would we be okay with that? And it turns out, yeah, actually. And the article that originally came out kind of made it sound like he was saying that he was trying to brainwash people into fighting for fascism, that the UN was actually thinking about trying to use that. There was another line in that other article about how if you're starting to wear the same uniform and the same clothing and doing the same salutes, then maybe you are part of a fascist group. Now, obviously, that means just about anybody in, I don't know, a private school or the military is technically part of a fascist group. But we could have a whole long conversation about that and the definition of fascism and authoritarianism. We're not going to have that conversation today. The conversation we are going to have is the fact that, for one, it's really easy to fall for some really good propaganda. It's part of the point of propaganda. In this case, we've been fed a little bit of a twist. As Pilz says, hey, we talked about it at the studio. We believe most people feel comfortable since it's all make-believe and role-playing. Gamers are smart and can differentiate between jokingly rooting for the Empire in Star Wars or the mobile infantry in Starship Troopers. And that is part of it. And that is kind of another part of a conversation I've been wanting to have for a little while about the point of gaming and where it fits. There is an awful large subsect of people out there that seem to believe that if you play a game, if you do something in a video game, that means you are likely to do it in real life. The whole idea that violent video games cause violence in real life, when in fact it actually is proven to really do the opposite. There is no direct correlation between violence in real life and video games. And why is that? It's because humans are capable of separating fact from fiction. We have the ability to self-identify when we look into a mirror. Other creatures have issues with that. Have you ever watched a dog bark at itself in the mirror, for example? That's because it has no idea that the thing on the other side of that glass is just itself. Now, what is the point of video games then? Well, it allows us to experiment and play with ideas and actions that we wouldn't take in a normal situation. In this case, for example, fighting for a fascist state that is very obviously brainwashed everybody with some really good propaganda. While unfortunately there are a large number of people who would actually fall for it, there is the normal subsect of people who would keep them from being that stupid. Again, we can have a whole long conversation about what it takes to keep from ending up part of an authoritarian regime, but that's a different conversation for a different place again. No, in this case, it's simply about the fact that when you play a video game, most people can accept the fact that those actions I'm committing on the screen are not what I'm really doing. Now, that doesn't mean that someone can ham-fist a really bad message about, being transgender or being gay and shove it in there and people have to be okay playing it. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. And I want to be very clear on that because sometimes people get a little bit confused. Just because you are comfortable exploring an idea in a story doesn't mean you have to be comfortable exploring an idea in a story. You never have to explore anything or experience anything in a video game that you don't want to play. We can pull in the conversation about the Silent Hill F content warning and talk about how it says at the very end, if you at any point in time you feel uncomfortable, step away from the game. But we really don't have to. In the end, it is a game. It is something you do in your free time when you have the ability and time to do something. People enjoy Helldivers specifically because they know it's tongue-in-cheek. Everybody has obviously identified that. Now, does that make Pilz wrong when he says that people will do it because they think it's tongue-in-cheek, that they can convince a group of people to say, for once, it's okay to go ahead and do it? Actually, no, he's entirely right. He hasn't convinced a large group of people it is okay to fight for the fascist regime. And he's convinced them not because they're actually doing it, but because everybody knows it's not real. But we also live in a time where groups of people want to take any little bit of information, spin it, and run with it. We are in an age of sensationalism where everything has to be set up to make people react in the most emotional way possible. And when this was initially presented to gamers, because let's face it, most of us aren't going and reading PC gamers. Most people probably saw it through a tweet or something mentioning it and then went and looked for it and read it. A lot of these things wouldn't exist anymore if it wasn't for the fact that a small group sees it and then presents it to the rest of the group. And the way it was presented was that it was, in fact, specifically made to be a psyop, which personally, I think just watching the entire thing is obviously not true. I don't play Helldivers, so I can't say I'm in support or against them. I've played it I take that back. I've played like 3 rounds, and I'm not into those kinds of shooters, so I never played it again. Plus, you had the whole, you have to sign up for the PlayStation thing, and honestly, for me, that was a bigger deal than any amount of supposed fascism in a game. I am one of those people who is basically incapable of doing an actually evil playthrough of anything because it makes me uncomfortable. But that doesn't mean I can't occasionally do evil things in the game. I do try to push myself a little bit because that is, again, the point of playing a game, is to experience things you can't experience in your real life. And yes, sometimes that means you are turning yourself into an absolute psycho killer who is fighting for the worst people imaginable. And that's okay, because it's fun. It's fun, and we deserve to have fun. It's fun, and we know that we're not really going out there and killing anybody. We are messing with sprites on a TV screen or a monitor or wherever in the world you're playing. Now, should he have said it that way? Probably not. Realistically, he set himself up to get into a lot of trouble when he said it that way. And when you bring in the UN of all people, especially in today's day and age where people are getting very, very anxious about government involvement in anything, and here you are being invited into the UN of all people to talk about radicalization through gaming, it's not a good look. I don't know what to tell you. That's not a good thing. But I will say it is important to always step back and, instead of overreacting at headlines, making sure you go in and take a good look at what someone's actually saying, especially when you're talking about someone who's giving you a quote from somebody else. Take a look at that and make sure you are getting the full context around that quote, because it is so easy to deceptively edit somebody's words. It is so easy to make somebody sound like they're saying something that they're really not. And there are whole classes on how this happens to us all the time, how we are being constantly manipulated by various news sources, and even sometimes each other based on that. Just look at a clickbait YouTube title. Maybe the one I put on this one. Probably not. I'm not good at clickbait. It makes me feel uncomfortable. But people are constantly using each other's emotions to provoke a reaction, to gain attention, money, fame, whatever. I'm not generally okay with that. I will sometimes engage in a mild form of it because, let's face it, I'm on YouTube. I kind of have to. If I'm planning to get anywhere, I have to do something that draws some amount of attention. And in order to be on YouTube, you have to enjoy that attention to some degree. It's not always what you think it is in terms of the enjoyment, but, you know, it is kind of fun. At the very least, it's fun to know that there are a couple hundred people out there willing to click on my video and listen to me ramble, and then either choose to agree with me or yell at me down in the comments. It's always fun when people yell at me. I admit I'm not very good at engaging back in the comments. For the most part, I just read them and react to them, unless there's something that I think bears saying. I've learned a long time ago that there are certain forms of interaction I'm just not particularly great at. And I am really good at just rambling sometimes. But that's what it's all about. And I think it's funny, just to backtrack a little, when we're talking about this quote, where we're talking about the quote that was taken, where he says, we asked ourselves, could we brainwash an entire community to fight for a fascist state? Would we be okay with that? And it turns out, yeah, actually, so many people stop at the would they, and they don't look at the would we be okay with that, because they're actually asking themselves, are we okay with the morality of convincing people to fight for this fascist state. And yeah, they were okay with it. But I imagine part of the reason they were okay with it is the same reason that the players are okay with it, is because it is all in good fun. It is a role play. It is a LARP. It is whatever you choose to call it. It's not reality. And if there's one space that we should be allowed to explore some of the crazier things in this world, it is in video games, because in a video game, you really don't hurt anybody except maybe yourself if you overplay said game. And occasionally I have bruised my thumbs pretty badly playing certain video games. Katamari Damacy. That one has left me with bruised thumbs. That's my fault because I pushed down on the stick too hard. Again, we're getting off topic. It's late. I've been doing wedding planning stuff instead of recording this video, so I'm kind of all over the place rushing this out to get it done and then get into bed. But those are my thoughts. I hope they made any sense to anyone other than me. I'm probably going to go edit this and wonder what the fuck I was thinking, but then figure, screw it, y'all are getting it anyway. That said, feel free to argue with me in the comments or whatever in the world you want to do. I look forward to reading them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.